Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Mail Club Corner. I make a fantasy adventure webcomic called Castoff, and every month I draw 2 stickers and a print for my monthly mail club. For this month, I let my patrons choose between a few different themes, and the one they picked was fairy tales. This was a really fun one, so let's get the time-lapse going and I'll tell you all about it. So, something folks ask me from time to time is how I come up with the themes for my mail club sets. The truth is, I get inspiration from everywhere. Sometimes if I think up an idea for a print, I'll fit a whole theme around it. If I recently watched a show or played a game in a certain genre, sometimes I'll jot down that genre as a potential future mail club theme. I have a whole list of ideas stashed away, and I add to it every time a new idea comes to me. When I'm short on ideas, one thing I enjoy doing is looking through lists of themes from mobile games. Games like Love Live, RIP, release themed outfit sets for the characters all the time, and sometimes if I see a theme I like, I'll make a mental note of it. This is actually where the fairy tale idea came from. I was looking at a huge list of all the previously released Love Live outfit sets, saw the fairy tale one, went, interesting, and jotted it down for later use. And later is now. This month, I really wanted to get the Mail Club artwork done quickly, since I wanted this video to go up slightly earlier than usual. I had Emerald City Comic Con to prepare for, so I knew I'd be short on time during the last few weeks of the month. Speaking of, if you're watching this on the day it goes live, hi! I'm in Seattle at Emerald City Comic Con right now. Come say hi, I'll be at booth 08 all weekend. And the second reason I wanted this video to go up a little early is because, well, Frankie plushies are now live on Makeship. That's right, the third main character of Castoff, the adorable eye patch lad himself, is now up on the website and ready to order. He's cute, he's plush, and he wants to come on all your adventures. But he'll only be available for 3 weeks starting today, so make sure you grab this lad before he disappears forever. Makeship link is down in the description. Anyway, Mail Club. The fairy tale theme is one I was excited for. So excited for, I actually finished both the stickers before the poll to decide the theme even finished. In my defense, it was winning by enough of a landslide, I didn't foresee anything catching up to it, so I felt pretty safe getting a head start. I knew what I wanted to do with the stickers pretty much immediately, so let's start with Vector. My dear sweet son has been compared to Rapunzel since the comic first started, on account of him being a little magical shut-in. I had to do a few tries at the pose to figure out exactly where I wanted to go, but doing some digging through Pinterest gave me a lot of ideas. The fact that both him and Disney's Rapunzel both have purple dresses was mostly a coincidence. I love drawing Vector in purple since it complements his yellow eyes, and it felt like the natural choice for the dress color, but I didn't want to completely yoink the Disney version's outfit. I went with a purple, white, and gold color scheme to add a little more contrast, gave him puffy sleeves, and kept to the pseudo shoulder pads from his actual outfit. I also added some flower details to hint back at the original fairy tale. Rapunzel flowers are a sort of lilac purple, so I used that for the flower in his hair, and added some flower embroidery to the dress as well. For his hair, Vector's hair is obviously black, but in the original fairy tale, a lot of emphasis is placed on Rapunzel having gold hair. I tried keeping his hair solid black, but I worried there wasn't enough visual definition. So then I tried a few iterations with him being blonde, but it wasn't really hitting right. He didn't really look like himself. But in the comic, Vector's hair does turn white when he uses his powers, so I ended up imagining a scenario where, in this universe, whenever Vector uses his powers, the hair gets a little bit lighter from the stress, and the hair that's been around the longest has been affected the most, while the newer hair is still fairly dark. I think the compromise worked out. However, anyone who comments that Vector has frosted tips is gonna get whacked with a frying pan, you've been warned. Next up is Ariana, and I went in a weird direction with this one. Because Ariana wears a lot of red, and red is her signature color in the comic, of course my mind instantly jumped to Red Riding Hood. But I also figured, well, Ariana isn't some helpless little girl, she's a badass bounty hunter. Maybe she should be the wolf instead? But if I just drew her as a wolf girl, that doesn't necessarily tie back to Red Riding Hood specifically. And we've lost the red theming. Unless I made her a red wolf, but that'd probably look too much like a fox, and then my visuals started getting all mixed up. So in the end, I decided on a compromise. Little Red Riding Hood, but also she's a wolf girl. Problem solved. Looking back, this was partially inspired by the Love Live fairy tale costume set that inspired the theme in the first place, but I had forgotten until I was writing this script and went back to look at the art in question. Oops. I was thinking about giving her a crossbow as a weapon, but then my mod suggested I give her an axe instead as a reference to the woodsman from the original fairy tale, and, well, that's kinda neat. So now, instead of a little girl whose grandma gets eaten by a wolf and then the wolf gets killed by a woodsman, now she's a wolf hunter in a red hood who is also part wolf herself. That's kind of fun, I dig it. Very vampire hunter who is also a vampire energy, love this for her. Don't know what happened to the grandma though, don't worry about it. The design here came together pretty quickly. I knew I wanted to give her big wolf ears and a big fluffy tail, but I also added a wolf pelt on her shoulders with a wolf skull clasp at the front to show that she means business, as well as some fur trim on her boots and wrist cuffs. Then she's got the red hood, because obviously she does, but I made it a little ripped and torn to show that she's a badass. The rest of her clothes were where I kind of struggled. I didn't want to give her anything too fancy since I wanted her to be kind of rough and tumble, but I also didn't want her clothes to be super dark since I was worried the shapes would get lost and muddied. And I didn't want to give her her usual red shirt since I wanted the hood to stand out. I found a compromise with a white shirt and dark pants and added a little texture on her hip pads and boots to liven things up. You come across this wolf girl in the woods, and she looks pissed. What do? Ah! Anyway, there's the stickers all done. Honestly, this was the easy part, and I was able to finish both stickers within barely 3 days of the month starting. The print was a little more difficult though, so let's get into that next. Sometimes art block can happen just because you don't have any ideas for a piece, but in this case I got stuck because I had too many. Thinking about other fairy tales that worked with the remaining characters, I didn't have any ideas I was super into. My first thought was doing Marina as the Little Mermaid since she's got some water theming going on, but I was iffy on that idea since I'm planning on doing an entire mermaid theme in May. And we're doing a contest with fan submissions for that, by the way. Design some fishy outfits for the cast and your designs could get used for May's Mail Club. Contest is open until the end of March. Check the link in the description for details. Wink. I also had an idea for a print that was less fairy tale specific, but just had a composition I really liked. Rory is a super shorty, gets teased in the comic about it a ton, and I thought to myself, what if I make her real tiny, borrower style? So then I sketched this piece of a tiny fairy Rory and Marina making her an outfit. I love this idea for a print, but it didn't really scream a specific fairy tale to me right away. Writing this now, I realize I could have done Thumbelina or something, but at the time it wasn't really clicking. My last idea was Marina and Ariana as Cinderella and Prince Charming, an idea that I wanted to draw mostly because I thought illustrating a fancy ballroom dancing scene would be really entertaining. I couldn't decide which of these three to go to, so I dripped some quick thumbnail sketches and let my patrons duke it out with a poll, and you've been watching the time-lapse, you already know which one won. However, the Marina and Rory one came very close to winning, so I'm putting a pin in it for now. I want to come back to this concept in the future, the idea is too cute not to use. Anyway, that aside, it's ballroom dance time. I'm gonna be honest, I just turned off my brain and went ham on this one. I pulled both characters' outfits out of my brain without really looking up reference, just slapped them in outfits I thought would look pretty. Marina's is kind of an off-the-shoulder version of Disney's Cinderella dress. I considered it making it more of a pastel blue, but I was worried it would clash too much with the very pink and yellow color scheme I was using for the rest of the picture, so it ended up being more of a very light lilac. With glitter, of course, because what kind of pretty sparkly princess dress doesn't have glitter? Meanwhile, Ariana's our Prince Charming in a red prince outfit, gold trim and epaulettes and everything. Not too much to say for this one, except someone in my Discord pointed out that both Ariana and Disney's Prince Charming have a habit of jumping out of windows. And I'm gonna be honest, I laughed harder than I should have at that. I feel kind of bad about it. Sorry, Ariana. Wonder if the prince has a cup holder. Well, enough about that. I looked at lots of ballroom dance scenes from other comics as my inspiration. Webtoons love to do stories focusing on royalty, so I'm gonna use their fancy ballroom scenes as inspiration for my comics prints. It's only natural. I also wanted to lean really hard into a pretty pastel color scheme, and pulled a few references I liked from Has Been Hotel of all places. Listen, pretty colors make the brain go brr. Don't look at me like that. No, I haven't watched season 2 yet. Shh. Lastly, I knew I wanted a really fancy ornate staircase in the background, and I'm gonna be honest, gang, I just traced a photo of some palace stairs. Like hell was I gonna try and do that perspective myself. Most of it got covered by other dancers anyway. It's fine. I ended up sticking to my reference a little too closely originally though, and afterward went back and added a lot of additional details. Some curtains and fancy cloth banners, as well as changing the back wall into a set of windows. I thought it would be fun to show a night sky, and I'm really glad I did, because I think those extra little splashes of purple really bring the piece together. Also, just for shits and giggles, there's some secret lore in this image. A few chapters ago, I was illustrating a comic scene in the Queen's throne room, and while I was inking, I thought to myself that adding a chandelier would make the composition of the page more interesting. I spent 20 minutes drawing a chandelier, only for it to get covered by the word balloons. And the stupid thing is, I already knew that there would be a word balloon there when I drew this. I had already done the lettering for this page. I just had all the word balloon layers turned off while I inked, and then forgot there was gonna be one there. Freaking waste of 20 minutes! I was so mad. Anyway, that's why there's a chandelier in this fancy ballroom. I needed revenge. And this time you can actually see the pretty chandelier I drew, damn it. The final step of rendering was adding just so many sparkles all over the piece. A few years ago, I made my own sparkle in like cutesy bubbly brush sets, and I always get a kick out of using them in an illustration like this. I love sparkles! Give me the sparkles! A tasteful sprinkle of glitter makes any piece better. I will die on this hill. And with my fancy ballroom all sparkled up, here's the final piece. Gonna be honest, folks, this is probably my favorite Mail Club piece I've drawn in a long time. I am so happy with the colors and the overall composition. I want to go here. Put me in a ball gown and put me in the space. I want to dance. But that's this month's Mail Club all done and dusted. If you like this artwork, you can get it by joining my Patreon this month, and I'll also put leftover stickers on my store after the month is over. Also, quick news! If you're not caught up on Castoff, now is a great time to do so. The last page of Chapter 13 just went up today, and we'll be taking a short break between chapters, so now's a great time to get caught up. However, if you want to skip the hiatus entirely, Patreon supporters are starting Chapter 14 today. It's gonna be a big one, I hope y'all are excited. Here's another little reminder to snag your Frankie plush. He'll only be available for 3 weeks starting today, so make sure not to miss him. Lastly, a huge thank you as always to my lovely Patreon supporters, and an extra special thanks to my video shout-out tier patrons. Holly, Mr. Donmatsu, Leaf, Alyssa Herzog, Neon Valkyrie, and Sammy Katz. Anyways, that'll be it from me. Fare thee well, friends, and I will see y'all next time. Bye!